If you're making deals and you're still doing it, like again, like they're in their lane.
But that's the thing. A lot of them aren't doing deals because there's hardly any of them out there.
I agree with you there.
And that's my frustration is just like, don't be so narrow in your criteria where you're never going to do a deal.
You're checking out the Investor Shed podcast with Nick Beveridge and Jeremy Kitchen. They're on the path to financial freedom and they're taking their community with them. Stay tuned for the best free real estate investing advice on the internet.
And welcome back to the Investor Shed podcast. I'm your host, Nick Beveridge, here with the one and only co-host of the Investor Shed podcast, Jeremy Kitchen.
Nicholas Beveridge, how are you today?
Doing all right.
We sound like we're doing like a self-help commercial.
Or like a science documentary.
Yes. For everyone listening, thank you so much for listening and taking the time with us today. I can't do that the whole show. I'm sorry.
Nope.
I want to be exploding with energy because you guys like when we're enthusiastic about this. So yeah, welcome everyone to the Investor Shed podcast. So great to have you as always.
Woo! Cybertruck came out yesterday.
It did come out. Well, it didn't come out. It said you can get in line.
Yeah, it said now we're delivering them for a lot more money than what we said earlier.
You thought you were going to buy a truck for $55,000. You're wrong.
Yeah, not with the self-driving, you're not.
No, not in this economy.
68.
Yep.
If you're in North Idaho, because you can't get that single wheel motor.
You don't want to buy a single motor on a Tesla.
No, not
Get
in
out of
North
here.
Idaho.
Get out.
You will be tripping everywhere.
Yeah. Speaking of tripping, today we got a really great conversation about tripping over real estate seminars. Are they worth it? Are they not worth it? We're going to dive into it today, aren't we, Nick?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
This is a subject I'm actually really psyched to talk about because I have so many mixed emotions about real estate seminars in general. I've been addicted to real estate seminars for a very long time, since I was 18, I think.
Yep.
You've recently gone to quite a few different seminars over the last couple of years.
Sure, absolutely.
So it'd be great to talk about, are they a trap? Or can they really help you? Or are they a mix of both?
Good question. I think it's a loaded question we're going to dive into today.
So quick intro, in case you've never heard of us before, I'm Nick Beveridge. I'm a real estate agent. I'm also a real estate investor here in North Idaho. I've been in the real estate business for about 13 years, and I've been going to seminars for probably closer to 16, 17 years.
Okay.
And I've spent a lot of money, lots and lots of money on seminars. I got into debt very, very early on, and I can kind of considered it my college debt. Sure. But what's been your experience with seminars?
Yeah, quick intro on me too. Jeremy Kitchen. Obviously, I am a hard money broker, and I'm also real estate photographer and newer investor. So kind of been doing this just a couple years. My experience with seminars has been overly good, and we are going to dive into it a little bit, like I said. I started, I think I went to my first seminar that was actually a paid seminar, 2020 or 2021, I believe.
Okay. Do you remember who put it on and where it was?
The first seminar I think that I actually went to was the big one that I remember, and my dates could be wrong on my head, but it was the BP RookieCon, so the Bigger Pockets Rookie Conference. It was held in Denver, Colorado. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, that was your first actual seminar. So you went to a big boy seminar, and it was more of a convention than an actual seminar. So mainly what I'd like to focus on today, and we'll absolutely talk about conventions because they definitely have their perks and cons.
Sure.
Conferences, cons. But have you ever been, Jeremy, to one of the 3-day seminars that usually gurus will come into town and have their minions put on a seminar to get people psyched up about real estate, maybe overwhelm people with information, but offer this solution with in the form of a program or a mentorship or a mastermind.
Sure.
Have you ever been to one of those?
The one that comes to mind, and I'd like to dive into one of these topics before we get too hard into this, but is the empowered investor one we went to.
Oh, okay.
But you mentioned the difference between conference and seminar, and for anyone listening, like for me, like I don't really put them in different categories. You
Okay.
obviously do, though. How would you put what's a conference and what's a seminar to you?
Yeah, so I think a conference to me is a large conglomerate of different companies coming together in an industry to basically educate and pitch their services. So that's been my experience with seminars, or sorry, not seminars, but conventions. I've been at Keller Williams Realty for a long time, and they have these annual conventions where they are just loaded with different companies that, other than just Keller Williams, that
Sure.
come in, and they also kind of pitch their stuff. But for the most part, it's educational, and there's all these different breakout sessions that you can go to. We typically at Keller Williams will have like 15,000 people.
Wow. Okay.
So they're usually held in very large conference centers in different cities. I've been to a couple, like one in Orlando, Florida. I've been to the Phoenix, New Orleans,
Okay.
sorry, not Houston, Austin, Texas.
And are those
so-
the family events that you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Those
So
are
they're-
very cool looking.
Yeah. And then there's other conventions out there like Bigger Pockets puts on. And that's also, I think, very similar where a lot of people come to it.
Sure.
And there's different breakout sessions listening to the same
Right.
speakers, right?
Right, right. Okay.
Like you could, there's a schedule of different classes or groups that you can go into,
Sure.
right?
But I think like that's not how all conferences are set up, and that's not how
Yeah.
all seminars are set up, right? Because I mean, I think we've been to some where it's they have the ones in that Kelly Clark put on the other year. where
Yeah.
they had the breakout sessions, and then they had everybody meeting in the main room. But I've also been to other conferences where just one speaker speaking at a time.
Yep. So that was more like a summit.
Sure.
And that's another subcategory of
So we've got summits.
an event. These are events.
We've got summits, we've got conferences, we've got seminars, and you've got like REI meetups that you do, right? And
Yeah, and that's different too.
And that is different, but like to me, like I said, I almost kind of lump them into the same category.
Yeah.
But I understand that like we're going to be talking about seminars and what to do and what not to.
And we can branch off into different types of events, but I do want to specifically talk about seminars.
Sure, okay.
And what you can get out of them and what they could potentially get out of you if you're not careful. So, yeah. So you actually, so you went to the one that Jason
Hartman.
yeah, Jason Hartman put on in Florida, and we actually traveled there. That was very much like a seminar I was used to going to, where they just have something to sell you
Sure.
for the most part.
Yeah.
But I still think it was worth going. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. And I think the key to running any seminar or going to any seminar is taking the value and taking the free tidbits that they give you and the networking, specifically the networking, right? Because you're in the room with these high-level individuals. Go shake some hands. Go tell them what you do and go see if you can be of value of 100%.
Yeah.
But there's typically a pitch at this, and I remember hearing that pitch, and there's nothing against this program. I'm sure it's a very good program for some very high-level entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I'm just not ready to level up to that yet.
Yeah. And the pitch was, give us $50,000 a year and you can be in our club.
Yep.
That ended up being the pitch,
That
right?
was the pitch, right? And, they give you all this value, and then they're like, I think they even told you, like, by the way, like, we're going to try to sell you on this. Like,
Yeah.
But
Which is fine.
And they're not trying to sell everybody too. Like they understand they're a very niched audience of like this broad sense.
Yeah.
So if you have 2,000 people in a conference seminar, they're looking for 2 to 3 people that are willing to like do the work and join into their mastermind, which I think is great. It's great to have a mastermind. It's great to be a part of those communities. The price tag was a little outrageous for the average Joe going, of course, right?
Yeah. And I think you just got to be very aware of what people's intentions are before you go to a seminar. And are they like, how are they paying for the venue that they're at? Is a big thing. Like if they're renting out this hotel ballroom for a weekend and they're all dressed very nicely and they're inviting nothing but rookies,
Right.
people that have never heard of real estate to an event, you can guarantee they're eventually going to sell you something. But the way they do it, that's what I want to talk about, which I think nobody really talks about, is like their formula
Sure.
for extracting your everyday average Joe's money.
And there's science behind this too, right? So
yes, but a large, I mean, you and I, we barely ever diss on people or systems. We're not very negative. We don't. We're not very disrespectful for the most part, but I think today's okay. I think today we should just be truthful and honest about.
Are we giving ourselves a pass to be dicks?
If that's okay with everybody, keep listening, because I think we're just going to be a little dickish today. Yeah. And I want to share all my very, extremely great and not so great experiences being at seminars, and just I've been in a position where I've been doing it since I was a very young person. It's been almost 20 years now. I started going when I was 18. I'm almost 37 now. So do the math.
Right.
And I've gone to at least 1 to 2 seminars a year. Okay. And these are like a traditional 3-day. Somebody's coming from out of town.
Sure. Okay.
Or you're traveling. To learn about real estate from experts,
right?
That just give you and here's your first tip if you're going to one of these: is the entry price very low and affordable? Is it free,
right,
or $100?
Right.
Probably they're gonna sell you hard on something.
Sure.
And so this is very common. What I normally see, they'll offer a free. And it'll be all over the radio. Yep. Hey, there's a free real estate event for a couple hours or an hour and a half going on at your local venue on this date. And register online or just show up, blah, 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 blah. Yep. Been to a lot of those. And it's at that event, they really just, they do a terrific job of doing crowd work.
Yep.
And getting people excited about learning about real estate, and then showing all the cool benefits, like very quickly, like within 10 to 30 minutes, of all the cool benefits of owning real estate and how easy it is to get rich over time by buying real estate, either doing fix and flips or buying rentals. And they show you all the good things. Nothing of like what to look out for, but these are all the magical things about real estate. This is a magic show. And before you leave, if you want to learn more, we have an extremely discounted course. We're coming in a few more weeks from now for 3 days, and it's only $100 or $200 or $500. And that will get you to go to the next seminar. But they don't do all this work and rent out, a $20,000 room to try to break even. Then they have, in my experience, a lot of this formula where they get people really psyched up. They overwhelm people with information. Overwhelming, like, here's everything about rentals really fast. Here's everything about fix and flips really fast. Here's everything about tax deeds and all these things that you probably would never learn to deal with anyway. But like every little piece of real estate where you can make money, and they put a nice slideshow together, getting people psyched up, overwhelm people. They share stories and have people interact, and people cry and like, I just want to do better in life, and I'm sick of the situation I'm in. And then they give people usually a challenge that night, and they don't get in the sales pitch at all, but they said, here's some tips on how you can up your credit lines with your credit cards. And they give you this script. And if anybody does this tonight, we're going to share a few more of our secrets just for you and pass out like these questionnaires that you would talk to sellers about. But what they're actually trying to do, and I've seen this at multiple different companies' events, they try to get people to raise their credit card limits so they can charge their credit cards the next day.
That makes sense. Okay.
That's what they're doing.
Okay.
So they try to get your average Joe to get into more debt, to ring up their cards by the end of the weekend.
Right.
And it's kind of a sick move, but that's what they do. And people don't ever catch on to it. It seems like that, unless you go to them for 18 years.
Yeah, you start learning.
Start learning what their formula is. But what are your thoughts on that, though?
Yeah, like the formula, what you're talking about, Nick, like it makes sense from from the perspective of somebody who goes to these things and has been to a couple, like it feels almost like, they put a little bit of bait on a lure and they cast it out, and then they catch you on the fish, right? So they get you on the line, but before they get you on the line, they're feeding you a couple more worms at the same time to think like, oh, this is fine to be here. This is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
Once, like you talking about, like they get you to raise your credit card limits and they get you to buy into their program, which is debatable if it's helpful or not, because I've never actually signed up for anything that's been pitched to me like that. I mean, I've signed up for programs like Grant Cardone's and Pace Morby's programs and stuff, just business programs, not seminar related though.
Right.
And the feeling is definitely like when you go there, like you're being overrun with value, right?
Yeah.
So you're being hit with like, boom, they're telling me how to flip, they're telling me how to do this, they're telling me what property, and they're hitting you with this information so fast. So they make you feel almost stupid if you don't join their program, right? Like if you want to learn how we do all of this, pay us more money.
Well, they brainwash you in a very unique way where they just overwhelm you, not just with information, but with value, like you were saying. Like, because they only charge you $100 to come in,
right?
For the most part. Everybody's a little bit different. And they've probably given you some goodies as soon as you walk through the door.
Yeah, a little
some
T-shirt
of these,
or swag bag or something.
They'll even give you a tablet.
Yeah.
Like, sign up for $100 and then here's a tablet with our goodie bag. And you're just like, holy crap, I'm getting everything for free. These guys are rich. I want to be like them.
Right.
But the thing is, I mean, if you do the math by the end of the weekend, like at a lot of these, they'll probably pump the room with a couple hundred people.
Sure.
And maybe half of them will sign up for their stuff. And they're typically charging somewhere between $10,000 to $80,000 for their different courses. So if you figure an average person is going to spend almost $20,000-$25,000, which I've done, by the way, when I was a very young individual with a friend, we got into a bunch of debt and we borrowed some inheritance money.
Yep.
And I didn't think I was that dumb, but we just got sucked into it.
Right.
If they can sign up 100 people, half their audience, and charge $25,000 per pop on cards, I mean, you're talking like in a weekend, they can rake in $2.5 million.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
And that's pretty good.
And if the room cost them $25,000 and they got most of that back in their ticket sales, or half of that, whatever.
Sure.
It's worth them to go from city to city. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
I mean, they're salespeople.
Right.
And this information isn't secret. Everybody, the information that they share is all over YouTube. It's all over all over these real estate investing books. There's really no secrets.
Right.
And then the programs that they pitch on you, I've had the fortunate position of being the guy that likes to network a lot with the people that end up going and signing up to these events. And then I like to keep tabs on them because I have them in my database. They're potential clients of mine, potential investors. And almost none of them end up using the program. And they go back to their normal lives. And they ended up just spending a crap ton of money, and it's embarrassing and shameful. And they just, they got psyched up for a weekend, made a life-changing, potentially decision, and then had no idea where to go from there because they were just overwhelmed with info.
Right.
And they got to get back to work. And they got to start making those credit card payments,
Yeah.
But I've seen it happen a lot. I'm not just thinking of one scenario. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I know 8 or 9 people I can rattle off the top of my head, but I'm not going to do it because I don't want to out them.
No, yeah. That's not what we're here to do today.
Yeah.
Kind of diving into that a little bit, Nick, like you said when people leave, I think what happens, and to attest to what you said, is people like you get so overwhelmed at these conference seminars, right?
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, I can do this. I can be at this level. I can do this. And here's where it gets tricky because human psychology is just a completely different animal than what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But, I think there's value in these programs.
There is.
But I also think most people won't take action on it.
Correct. And the reason for that is habits.
Right.
People, if they're in the habit of going to work, and if they're not in entrepreneur habits, where they get up at a certain time and they actually do the hard things, and they know, and they have a habit of knowing what the next thing is to push them down the road.
Yep.
A lot of people, if they're a W-2 worker and then they come and sign up for a program like this, they don't have the habits of an entrepreneur to self-start something. They're in the habit of being told what to do.
Right.
And even if they buy a program that tells them what to do, they're not in the habit of turning it on
Right.
and listening to step one and doing what they're told. They're still used to the fear of, if I don't show up to work, I'm going to get fired.
Right.
You know?
How am I going to pay my bills if I don't go
and
to
that's
work?
and that's just my theory.
Sure. But that's what I'm saying. Like it gets tricky telling you, like, is the program going to be worth it or not? And it depends on, what kind of person are you? Are you a person with these habits who's like, if you spend $10,000 on a program, are you going to instantly take action? We can even talk into kind of what you've done with yours, right? Like,
Yeah.
yes, you went into huge debt going into some of these seminars, right?
Yeah.
But you've also been an action taker. And you've done things, and you've done the hard things.
Yes.
And regardless on whether that was based off your seminar or not, like you rose above what the price of the admission was.
Yeah. And that's another, seminars are not all bad.
Right.
I felt like going to these seminars again and again and again did really kind of help me understand real estate maybe a little bit better than the average real estate agent when I started.
Sure.
However, there is something to the amount of time you spend on a topic.
Yes.
Going to 3-day seminars, spending that kind of money is nothing compared to just being a real estate agent and being involved with it 8 hours a day. Being involved with the basic real estate stuff. Like,
yeah.
It's just not what you think it might be.
Sure.
If people really have a desire and a want to do real estate, it's not that hard in 2023 to figure out the right path.
Right. And there's 50 different paths you can take, but you can choose one and just take action on it for sure.
Yeah, there's so many, and that's a problem too. There's so many different options that you can go down, and that's part of that overwhelming factor that seminars usually throw out there. And they do offer this solution of, hey, just sign up with us. We'll walk you through exactly what to do.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is most people still don't go that far.
Right. And I can tell you, like, from experience, like, I've gone to a few of these, right? And I feel when you go to them, again, you get hit with that overwhelming value. You feel like almost like you're going to be offending them if you don't take part in their program.
Yeah. There is some guilt.
The way it feels is like, oh, you've given me so much for free. I've gotten a free T-shirt, which $5, whatever.
You want to make them happy and be like, here's my card, dude. I'm in. High five.
Right. You guys are high-level entrepreneurs doing this at like a really big scale. Do I want to be you? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. And there's that almost fear of missing out too. There's the fear of missing out, and then there's the overwhelming value that they provide. Right. Because most of these programs too, like, we're only open to 100 participants, or we're only open to 200 participants. And from a sales standpoint, it's genius.
Yep. Yeah.
Like, I've incorporated some of this into my own business too, right? Like, I give people things for free, knowing that not everyone will take part in it.
Yeah.
But the people that will see the overwhelming value and sign up for one of my programs.
Yeah. So I'd like to talk about like some of the huge benefits though of going to these.
Yeah,
and one of the most underrated benefits out there, I personally believe, is the people that you will meet that will be sitting in the chairs next to you.
Yep.
So if you go there with that intention of, hey, I'm going to this event and I'm going to be surrounded by like-minded people that want what I want, and you make those people your new friends, and you collect cards and exchange information, and you start building a database of these people that are like-minded, that also want what you want, and it's amazing. I mean, I remember the first time we kind of went to a seminar with Alan way back 19 years ago.
Okay, yeah.
I went to the seminar and we started making connections with local people, started making exchange numbers. And I remember this one guy, he wanted to start kind of like a regular meetup in his house. And he, at the time, I think he was installing fireplaces. That was like his gig.
Okay.
I know that guy still today. His name is Josh Ivy.
Okay.
And he owns a large property management company in this area.
Nice.
One of the larger ones, Hometown Property Management.
Okay.
And he owns a shit ton of rentals. And his wife is a rock star realtor.
That's awesome.
So they've stuck with it, but I don't think they signed up for that program. But what they did do was they created a network of contacts, and they started meeting more regular with people that were like-minded.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I think that's really good. Like you said, And that's something that I've still been trying to get used to, shaking hands and meeting people in the audience, because there is a weird, like, you get starstruck by the people on stage, right?
Yeah.
That you're just like, oh man, like I get it too, because you want to meet with the people and you want to do what the people are doing, 10 levels above you. You don't want to be doing business with the people who are on the same level with you. They won't help you grow.
Yeah.
The people will help you grow, but I mean, I also see what you're saying, are in the audience, but you want them to be the people on stage, if that makes sense.
You want that, but it's just not a reality.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely networking is just so huge in these events. And you can get unlimited value out of just shaking hands with people in the audience, telling them what you do and seeing how you can provide value to them. Not even, again, trying to sell them anything.
Yeah.
Please don't, actually. But just seeing like, hey man, I do this. I run a real estate podcast. I am an investor. Like, if you ever need anything in Idaho, let me know.
Yeah.
And people still contact me from seminars and conferences I went to too. So
Yeah. Yeah. And then another point I want to throw out this, I remember I learned about subject twos in one of these seminars that I took. And it was actually like it was a coaching program I bought with the Robert Kiyosaki's company.
okay.
And it actually wasn't one of these seminars, but it related to
Sure.
it. And I remember once kind of learning about, just taking over somebody's payment on this coaching call. And this coach was telling me more about it. He's like, yeah, it's an option not many people know of. It's called subject to, and you're taking a property subject to the mortgage remaining in place. But it's a great way to acquire rentals if somebody's in a situation where they have a decent loan and you don't have much money and you can still close on the property and just transfer title.
Right.
And I remember just that, one call, kind of taking some notes on that, keeping it in the back of my mind. And then I believe it was a year later or so where I got this lead from Joe, this foreclosure, and I didn't do anything with it for a while. And she contacted me again a week later. She's like, hey, did you ever call that lead? I'm like, no, I'm sorry. I don't really know what to do. He's like, well, they're getting foreclosed on like in a week. Can you call him and figure out something? And so I called him. I just asked him the basic questions, asked him about his the mortgage and stuff and what they owe. And I'm like, man, you guys have a lot of equity. You're gonna lose out here in just a few days.
Sure.
And then it sparked back. I'm like, oh yeah, I learned about subject to, where you can just take somebody's mortgage over. Because what I was thinking was, there's not enough time to get a hard money loan. Like
Right.
you're gonna get foreclosed on in a couple of days. There's just not enough time to do all that research. But that came back to me that I learned from, one of these programs, and I actually put it into play, and we figured it out. We stumbled through it, but we did a subject to before it was cool.
Is this your one in Sandpoint?
No, this was before that.
Okay,
This-
wow.
This
Okay.
was back when Joe and I just started working together.
Okay.
And we flipped a house in Post Falls, and we bought it for what the guy owed on it, plus gave him 10 grand. And then we mowed the front lawn after we closed on it and put it on the market. We made $60-something thousand. It was like the most money I ever made on a flip.
Sure.
And we did hardly anything to it. And it was just, and I remember Joe thought I was such a genius because I'm like, we could just do this subject to thing. And hardly anybody was talking about it at the
Right.
time. It was not a cool or known about really thing by
Yeah.
many people. But it felt great that, hey, that paid off. I learned, I remember paying $1,700 or something like that for a few coaching calls. And I learned something that I actually applied.
That's awesome.
And it made infinite returns.
So let's just dive into that real quick. I know we're going to be talking about seminars, but I think that's a cool story. So when you subject to it and bought that property, what was the person living there doing? Were they just moving out to?
So it was a rental.
Okay.
These people were living in another state, and
Okay.
they just weren't making payments on that for quite a while.
That's the best case scenario then.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the tenants, they wanted their deposit back, so they cleaned up the place really nice before they left.
Nice.
And the management company that was managing it gave us the keys to go check it out. And Joe and I just couldn't believe it. We were walking through it, we're like, we don't have to fix anything
Weird.
at all. Like maybe mow the lawn. The lawn was starting to get pretty hectic.
Sure.
Mowed the lawn, and then and we painted the front door.
Cool.
And then Joe, while we were working the deal out, I remember I was on the phone. We were in the front yard. Joe started picking weeds around the garden beds.
Yeah.
And she picked all the weeds while I was on the phone, kind of negotiating the deal. So she got half the job done while we were negotiating on the phone, which was funny.
Yeah, worst case scenario, you pick some weeds and deal doesn't come through, and oh well.
Yeah, but it was a rental. We
cool.
just threw it on the market. We closed on it with, and I didn't have a lot of money back then, but I had $8,000.
Yep.
And Joe at the time, she didn't have a lot of money either. She had $25,000 in a. It wasn't just in their account. It was like in a retirement fund or something like that.
Okay.
But that's about how much money she had.
Sure.
And I think we both had to bring. She brought like 13. I brought like 8 to make it work.
Cool.
And I think she got just a little bit extra because I brought less, or we split it equally. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But
either way, though, that you found an opportunity, and because you went to a seminar and because you heard of this, you were able to take action.
yeah,
So
yeah,
they're not all bad because
they're not all bad. I actually applied something that I learned.
right.
Yeah.
That is the key.
Yes.
Again, they overwhelm you with information most of the time, but if you're taking action on any of this, you will see results. Like it's stupid to not see results. These are
Right.
proven systems most of the time that do work as long as you are willing to do the work to make it work.
Heck yeah. All right. So we talked about getting overloaded with information. Common sales tactics. Sorry, I'm just looking over notes, people.
Nick's going to edit this anyway. He told me.
We'll see about that.
We'll see about it.
All right. Yeah. Due diligence before going to a seminar. Cool. It's a good idea. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you guys are, if you hear about a seminar coming to town, write down the company name and actually do some research before you go. That's, I think that's such a killer idea. I don't know why I've never done that before, but there are some companies that are really awesome. And here's one that does the same formula, but I usually learn a shit ton there. It's called Fortune Builders.
Oh, yeah.
And they primarily teach you how to fix and flip homes.
Okay.
They sprinkle in all the other aspects of real estate to confuse the hell out of you. Of all the different ways that you can make money as well. And then how you can structure your business and avoid taxes. I mean, they just overload you with information in 3 days. And then their solution is just sign up for your program that ranges from $25,000 to $80,000. And then if you don't sign up, we're going to call you the next day. And we have this course for $6,000 at least.
Yep.
But they actually have really quality information and great tips when it comes to fixing and flipping homes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's good. And like you said, like just kind of going back to it too, when you get like overloaded with this information, what it feels like is it feels like they're just kind of lightly scraping the surface, enough to wet your palate, basically.
Yeah, make it real wet.
Right?
Yep.
They wet your palate and they say like, hey, if you want more, we have more.
Uh-huh.
We can get you more, baby.
Oh, yeah. Don't go to bigger pockets.
Yeah. We can get you more. Funny thing, it'll cost you more, which... Again, kind of goes back to that debatable thing. Like, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is the product worth the price?
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes they are. Mm-hmm. I just think what I like to caution people is like, are you the right person though for it? Right. And I feel like if you're a seasoned investor, sometimes those programs are better for people that already have experience fixing,
I agree.
Doing real estate transactions, because then they already kind of. They're in the business. They know that they're going to be doing it. Might as well use a program to kind of set them straight,
right? And
be in the right mentorship. Be mentored by the people that they definitely want to be like. The problem with absolute rookies signing up for programs like this is that you have no idea what you're getting yourself into. Yep. You don't know if you're going to like real estate. You don't know if you're ever going to actually get on the phone and feel comfortable talking to a seller, going to somebody's house, asking them for $100,000 less than what a realtor can get them. Mm-hmm. There's so much that you don't know if you can actually do and if you'll actually enjoy it, that it's just probably not a great idea to jump into a big program unless you have some experience under your belt. Sure.
And I think I agree with you there, honestly. Like,
that's a first.
It is. Come on now. No, but seriously, like the rookie, it is hard. You get this shiny object syndrome, man.
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh, I could subject to, I could flip, I could do hard money, I can be a realtor. I can save my realtor fees, and I can do that myself. But that's just not the right mindset to go into these things, right? Because if you can do it all yourself, you're wasting your time. The whole key of this whole thing is like finding other people to do it for you.
Or with you.
Or with you, correct, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's some great mentorship programs out there that they don't make money on you. They make money with you, and then it's more of a split.
I've
Those
seen
are
that too.
rare, but they're out there. Yeah.
Yeah. I do like Pace Morby's pitch. I know a lot of people shit all over Pace Morby, calling him a fraud and stuff. But have you ever heard his pitch when he talks to people? If he meets you for the first time, do you know what he does?
His pitch of like the $7,000 sub 2
Nope.
student. Which pitch are you talking about?
What is he? The first time he ever meets you,
Uh-huh.
he says,
So why aren't we doing business together? Well, because I don't know you.
"No, he
Sir?
said, so why aren't we doing deals together?"
Yeah.
And if you say like, "Well, I don't have capital," he's like, "Well, I've got capital for deals." Well, I don't have somebody to do this. Well, I have that. We can partner on this.
Yeah.
And it's a valuable thing that I think he does. So why aren't we doing business together?
Yeah.
And again, he's one who likes to partner with a lot of people. I'm sure a lot of people are in his Subject 2 group. I'm in his Gator program. I think he personally provides a lot of value. But
He does.
yeah,
He does. However, the thing about Pace and his advertising, and I've been around like at this Clever Summit event, a lot of his culture of
Yeah.
people, and I see similar. Well, I guess where I saw it the most was at one of these networking events that he had his cronies put on. It seemed like the general feel of a lot of these people in his program were very new.
sure.
Didn't know what they were talking about for the most part. A lot of people very green and very assumptive. I mean, if I can be a little critical, it's just there's a lot of arrogance and really bad advice sometimes when it comes to like for instance, I was at this event that they had in Arizona, and the talk of the town was buying properties with no equity
Right.
that were negative cash flow, but they had great mortgages.
Right.
So people were trying to flip them constantly. And
Yeah.
it was overwhelmingly bad assets, like bad investing, high
Sure.
risk. And it just felt, if I could be critical, just because I've been in the business for a long time and I understand how math works and how how you want to buy assets over time. And it just seemed like they just try to focus on whatever's easy and doesn't require much money. And it seems like, having money's not maybe frowned upon, or like trying to actually put a lot of money into a deal is frowned upon for whatever reason.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I can see where you're at there for sure. And to play like, I guess, devil's advocate, like, yeah, like his whole program is based on not having money. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just think it's a hyper niched product, which serves a lot of people, actually. Like you're saying, like you bought a deal Subject to, and that's basically what he does. If you didn't know about that.
But I bought that deal after I had bought many deals.
Right.
And I knew how real estate worked and what I was buying. It didn't rely on the mortgage to make it a good deal. You know what I mean?
And again, I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate.
That's okay. That's what I want here.
So like, I think it's not a bad thing that, because a lot of people want to get into real estate and people don't know where to start. This is a starting point. Whether it's a good or bad starting point, it's a launching pad.
Yeah, I just think to make it your primary focus to how can I find a deal that needs no money, and just focus on seller financing and creative financing limits your deals by a lot.
I agree with you.
It limits it by a ton.
Right.
So you stop looking at all the real opportunities out there, and you're looking for this. Where's this no cash? Where are the no cash deals that don't exist?
Yep. Now,
But wait, there's some in Texas, there's some here, there's some in markets that I know nothing about, and that's what a lot of people are buying. They're buying these deals online in different markets that they know nothing really about, because they have no money to be doing deals anyway, and then they get Gator loans, and there's people out there giving money to broke people to do deals with no experience.
yep.
And
That's all put in through title, by the way. Like it's secured enough.
Right. It's
But-
just cringy to me as somebody who's been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
And then I see this crowd of people with no experience doing things in a way that is, I can't shit on it too much because I've done a lot of it.
Sure.
But where they make that just their focus.
Right.
My focus is only these deals that require little to no money that I can take over a mortgage, when there's still other ways to creatively buy real estate.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Like there's real estate everywhere you look, but if they're just looking for the mortgage deals, low bar to entry, they're getting, they could be getting themselves into risky deals.
Sure. And I'd say, like, you get yourself into risky deals no matter if you buy a flip and the market goes up. The most risky thing you think you can do, though, is not invest. Right?
I mean, it's a guaranteed way to slowly die.
Yeah. What is it anymore? But again, going back, and I know we're switching kind of from seminars to programs right now, but you and I even have specifically partnered with people who don't bring money to the deals. Like, their job is to find us the deals. And then it's you and I, like, bringing the funds and figuring everything else out.
Yeah.
Which has worked okay. Like,
yeah. And those people could have made a lot more money if they knew what they were doing.
I agree with you.
And didn't just focus on how can I get into something with no money.
Mm-hmm. And I agree, but I think sometimes it does take money to make money, but you have to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And I again, it's a super niched product where, like, these people are going after the subject twos, they're going after the high mortgages or the people who can't afford low equity type of situations. That's what makes a subject two work.
Yeah.
There's value there. If you can buy an asset and you don't have to get bank approved for it, and you can afford it, and you can rent it and do something cool with it, there's value there. And I will say, yes, the subject to community is huge. There's too many of them.
The problem I have is that their God just, like, because I've listened to so much Pace Morby content. I don't want to sound too arrogant here. Like, I've heard it once and twice now. I have big opinions. I mean, I've drank the Kool-Aid. Right. Trust me. I've been to his events in Arizona.
Yeah.
I just feel like sometimes he gives advice that's just cringy, like where he says, I don't buy anything that's not creative finance. Mm-hmm. So he, in turn, is teaching people that are brand new, don't look at any other opportunities out there.
Yeah.
Only creative finance, only seller financing, only people that are in pain or gain. You know,
I guess there's more people for us to buy from then.
Right, but there are amazing opportunities out there.
There are.
In other aspects of real estate, if you're only putting all your eggs in, hey, I've got a cool hat and I'm just looking for deals that need no money to come in. I just think it's just a bad habit to get into.
Sure. And like full transparency here, like obviously, like, we partnered with people who bring these deals. Yeah. Like my wife, like, she specifically scolds these people. Like, I can't believe they do a deal with no money. I can't believe, like, it's unethical, blah, blah, blah.
It's not unethical.
Right. And that's where I have to, like, be like, it's not unethical. Like, the deals take three things. They take knowledge, capital, and the deal itself, right? And contractors.
And that's sorry if I'm sounding like I'm coming off that way. I don't think it's unethical at all to not bring money to the table. I just think it's a bad habit. Sure. It's a bad habit to focus on just the deals, because then you're limiting your opportunities like crazy, because I've been in it for a while. Mm-hmm. Those opportunities are rare and far and wide, and then you have to go to different markets that you know nothing about. Sure. And that's where a lot of the risk comes in. You're buying things. A lot of people are buying stuff with no equity in a market that they don't know about because it's a low entry fee. And I'm gonna let you go. Because it's a low entry fee. Sure. And it's just. Real estate investing does not have to be risky.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
But if that's all you're focusing on, then I think you just get in this habit of looking at risky deals.
Sure.
That's all. And
one little minor point on that, like, yes, I do agree with you that I think they're limiting themselves on the deals they get. But I also think that they have a niche and they have a pathway. Like, when you're real estate investing, you should know your criteria. 100%, right? And these people know what kind of criteria they're looking for. Okay, we're looking for shit deals with no equity. Like, that's what they're looking for, and good for them, I guess. Like, if it works out for you, great. If it doesn't, you probably learned more than the cost of it, and you're going to come out ahead anyway. If you're making deals and you're still doing it, like, again, like, they're in their lane.
But that's the thing. A lot of them aren't doing deals because there's hardly any of them out there.
I agree with you there.
And that's my frustration is just like, not think outside the box a little bit, but like, don't be so narrow in your criteria where you're never going to do a deal. Because like in our market specifically, you just have to have more skills, more tools in your toolbox than just creative financier or subject to, because there's so few and far between.
Sure.
That all of a sudden you have to re-educate yourself on new markets, and learning a market is very important, I believe.
Sure.
And if you can absolutely learn any market quicker these days than most.
Sure.
But still, buying in the wrong location is the worst thing you can do. And I still do it, even knowing this market very well.
Yeah.
The property on Lakeside we built, it was just a block away from the right location.
Yeah, it seems like it would
and
be
it's
in a cool
$100,000,
location.
and it's a $200,000 mistake.
Whoopsie daisy.
Yeah. Same with the Sagal deal I bought.
Yeah. A little too far out of town.
Little too far out of town, and then they changed the roads
Yep.
to get there. It used to be easily accessible or out at the highway. I got it under contract before I realized that, because I've been there before in the past. They changed up the highway, and now it's worth a lot less. And it's location. It's not knowing your market well enough.
Sure.
Mistakes.
And
When these subject to deals are so few and far between, and you have to look in all these different markets, it's just so much more work, because then you have to. Maybe you don't have to, but I feel like it's really important to learn a market before you invest in it.
Sure. And 100% agree with you. Like location is very much the first thing you should be looking at when you're buying a deal. But to attest to your point a little bit, like I've never heard him say like go after markets you don't know. I've always heard him say like do your market research. Same with him and Jamil, right? Jamil, like I've seen him on like live wholesaling calls. He does his research on his calls. He's like, okay, what's this area looking at? How much are these rents for on a 3-2? What is this? And he's doing his due diligence, which you should do no matter what program you're in, or even if you're not in a program. You should research what you're doing.
And I'm going to bring up a point on that. When the opportunity does present itself in a market you're not familiar with, if you're not familiar with that market, sometimes you can't act quick enough to get a great deal under contract.
Yeah, I agree.
Unless you take a huge risk by just getting something under contract and then doing your research later, maybe during your due diligence period or something like that. But
Sure.
the reason why it's I've done a lot of deals in North Idaho is because I know the areas really well, and then when an opportunity does present itself, it's much faster for me to say yes or no to like a wholesaler, for instance, before they move on or send it out to their list.
Right.
I don't have to say, well, let me get back to you on that. I don't really know much about that area.
Right.
It's a huge leg up to know your market before you're investing in it.
And that's where, you can partner with some of these people who will give you lists, right? Like I think Jamil, like if you want to partner with him, he'll send out his list.
Yeah.
And that brings up a point, like location is important for sure. Before you run, you got to walk, right? But before you do that, like how do you pick a market? Because I think even I have a hard time with that. I go on Zillow and I start finding these houses for $100,000 in the Midwest. Doesn't mean it's going to be a good investment.
Yeah. I mean, there's a large country to invest in.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, how do you pick a location?
Well, there's so many different factors. The reason why I've been picking North Idaho lately is because I grew up here.
Right.
I know it very well. And I feel very strongly that in 30 years, we will still be here. Because we're not reliant on like an industry.
Right.
Or big factory. There's a lot of markets you got to be careful of that are going just, like if you're investing heavily in Detroit, before
The automotive industry, yeah.
before they moved all the factories, then your portfolio of rentals went to zero. Right. Or not zero, but almost.
Yeah.
Over time. When you're like, wait, I thought if you spend your whole life buying rentals, aren't you going to be set up? Well, if you're not in the right location, sometimes things like that could happen.
Right.
So you got to be very, very confident that, 30 years from now, would I want to live here 30 years from now? And is it reliant on any particular,
right.
job? I remember Robert Kiyosaki really stresses that when he teaches about investing in real estate. He's like, jobs. You got to have plenty of jobs if you're investing in a particular market.
So the things I look for population growth, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at the population numbers. I go year over year. Okay, are we seeing an increase, or if we're seeing a decrease, what's the decrease, right?
Yeah.
Did a industry leave? And I'm looking for A, population growth, and I'm looking for B, multiple industries.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm not just looking for the one pillar like Detroit with the automotive scene. I'm looking for something that's like, oh, San Francisco, where they've got like health, you know, tech, everything that you can need, right?
Yeah.
So if one crumbles, you still have some other pillars to go on. And then just price to entry, basically.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's hard because I've been really checking into the Pittsburgh market for the last like 4 years. Mm-hmm. And I even a year and a half ago or so, I went out to the Pittsburgh market and checked out like the eastern side around Murraysville.
Yeah.
Because I heard that that's a great school district area. And a lot of, in that county,
that's important
they have
too.
great schools. Mm-hmm. And I drove around, and there's some streets I definitely wouldn't want to invest in, but most of them, yeah. And I'm glad I was able to kind of check out the submarkets within that area. And then I continue to do more research, and I find that there's a population decrease over time.
Okay.
And that wasn't expected. And this was like 4 years later. And then, new Census Bureau data comes out, and it's like, oh, they lost 10,000 people. Interesting.
Yeah.
Now I'm questioning.
Right.
Am I glad I didn't buy there? Yeah, I don't know. But it's just it's something you got to just be cautious with. Sure. Just don't just invest in any market out there because the interest rate's 2.75.
Right. Which sounds good, but I'd like to give people more credit than they may or may not deserve, but like there's people doing sub 2 deals that are doing a great job, but there's also subject to people who are doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Right?
Because opportunities are so slim.
Sure.
But when you learn more about the different strategies of acquiring real estate,
mm-hmm.
you can put more things into action.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. So we got off topic about seminars.
Yeah, but I
like we normally
kind of
do.
Like seminars and programs are pretty similar, right?
Yeah.
Seminars typically lead to programs, and I will say that. Whether it's a
Yeah.
mastermind or something else, like it typically leads into a yearly or lifetime membership of sorts.
Yes. So here's some recommendations if you're going to seminars.
Mm-hmm.
Bring a notebook, bring an audio recorder on your phone, soak in as much info as you can, but spend almost an equal amount of effort just meeting people around you and getting their contact info, putting them in a database, and then try to connect with them later.
Yeah.
Because it's really all about your network. Your network is your net worth. And this is different from network events, I believe.
Right.
I host a networking event, and we don't charge anything for people to come.
Yep.
We definitely pitch our services.
Sure.
We spend about 2 minutes on that out of the 2 hours.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's 2 minutes, probably 15 seconds.
Yeah.
If you need an agent, let us know.
Yep.
But, I think if you're newer out there, you're going to get so much more value if you try to find meetups, local meetups, and you go multiple times.
I agree.
Try to go once a month for a year before you decide if you're not going to go anymore, like if it's a waste of time, because some events are duds, some are great.
Right.
But you really have to go regularly to build a network of contacts that you're going to need in this business.
Yeah.
Lenders, contractors, hard money lenders, agents,
For sure.
other investors to maybe take to coffee or lunch and ask questions from. I believe I just think it's a better way to get started is by going to free networking events.
I agree.
And just be intentional about why you're there.
Right.
Instead of leaving as soon as the speaker's done.
Yeah. A lot of people do that, actually.
Yeah, they forget why they're there, and then as soon as the guest speaker's done, they jet out of the room.
Yeah. Not talking to anybody.
Which is fine. I mean, I'm a shy guy. I get that. I don't want to, half the time, I don't want to talk to people either, just out of pure shyness.
Right.
What do you think?
I think you're absolutely right on that point, Nick. I think like free networking events and just being wary that like, yes, it's free, but is there a cost at the end? Like, are they going to force you into some mentorship? Or are they going to get you into another program? Just be aware that these things can happen. And even if they do happen, it doesn't mean they're bad, but you just have to weigh the benefits and the risks, basically. 100% agree with you on the fact that you say that you should be networking after networking events. That's
Yeah.
literally in the name, people. Like
People forget that part.
the speaker is just some kind of sauce to almost get you in the room. And
Yeah.
then once you're in the room, that's where the magic happens.
Yep.
The speaker's just like icing on the cake, but you still like the cake is delicious if you
Yep.
if you're in the room. So definitely network with people, exchange your contact information. There's really good, easy ways to do that digitally. What I found a lot people do, they'll grab a business card and they'll put it in their pocket, and then they'll wash their pants, or they'll throw away their business cards.
You've done that.
Yeah. You ever open your dryer and there's little bits of business cards in the dryer lint?
A couple times.
Yep, a few times. Right. But the best way to do it, honestly, is put people's contact information directly in your phone right as it happens.
Yeah.
Like, pull out your phone. There's apps that you can do this. There's the dot cards that you can just, like, slap somebody's phone, and then it gives you all their contact information. I use Hi Hello, and then when somebody scans your code, it automatically puts their contact info back into your phone as well,
Yeah.
which I love that.
Yeah. I take a picture usually of the card and I email me the picture and then I'll enter it into my database later like a caveman.
There you go.
But you got to be intentional about it.
Yeah,
You
as
got to
long
do
as you're
something with
intentional,
with that contact info.
And once
and then
you do
follow
it-
up.
exactly where I was going. I'm like, don't just let it sit. I usually follow up within a day or two, honestly. Like, if I'm at a networking event, be like, hey, it was so awesome to meet you. I love how you talked about this. Do you think we can meet up for coffee this week? And you push it out there, right? Because that shows, one, A, you're interested in what they're doing, and people love talking about themselves. So the best way to get somebody to trust and talk to you is let them talk about themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, you should be doing that once a week.
Yep.
I think if you want to be serious about being an investor,
Yep.
meet up with somebody once a week. Almost doesn't even matter who it is.
Yep.
But if they're in the industry or if they're another investor, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Just spend and if you go to lunch every week, it could get expensive. So
Sure.
just people are usually fine with coffee or a beer.
Coffee works. Even like
Yeah.
like if somebody, you can tell someone's like a fitness guru or going through 75 hard, like offer to go on a walk with them.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, you don't need to
go on
spend
a hike.
money. Yeah. Hey, if you're doing your outdoor workout today, you want me to join you? We can talk about hard money brokering, whatever.
Yep.
There's free and easy ways to do this stuff.
There's so much more value in one-to-one connections with people if you're meeting the right person than a seminar will ever give you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The powers in the people at these events, 100%. So
Yeah. Let's see. Any more tips?
no, again, like I think we did a pretty well job of talking about the differences between seminars and conferences. But at the end of the day, like you should still be going to these events if it speaks to you, right? Specifically, like if you wanted to flip and there was a flipping seminar,
Yeah.
go to it.
Yeah. Or, I mean, just go meet with a flipper.
Right. Or go, that's the easiest way
Yeah.
to do it, honestly. But
I think-
if you're scared of the one-on-one and you just want to be in the room where it happens, just go see how it is. And you don't have to you don't have to make a choice about how you're going to buy it. Anything. Just remember, they are probably going to sell you, and have enough strong willpower to say, "F off."
F off, everyone. Yeah. And again, I'd like to point this out. I mean, if you are a newer investor, do yourself a favor and really be cautious about going to seminars.
Sure.
Go to networking events instead. Meet with people, read books, listen to podcasts,
Yes.
because it's so easy to get sucked in to spending a lot of money on something that you'll probably not use.
Yeah.
And a caveat to that, if you have been doing a few deals, you're a seasoned investor, you probably don't need to hear this, but maybe you haven't considered it. Actually consider joining a mastermind if you want to get to the next level.
Right.
Because then you can apply systems a lot easier than a newbie, and you know that.
Yeah.
So
I think people can get stuck, and when you get stuck, it's so hard to get unstuck.
yeah.
Right? Like I've spun my wheels for a while, as I'm sure you have, and certain things too, right? And then you get in the room, and then you level up.
Yeah.
I remember getting stuck, level up.
Yeah. I remember I joined Michael Porsche's Mastermind.
Yeah.
After I heard him speak, and I was like, and I was getting into short-term rentals, and it was a short-term rental mastermind, and it was totally worth the money.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't a whole lot. It was like $3,500, something like that.
Right.
But I was experienced enough to know what I was getting myself into. I knew that I would be. I'm going to have to devote some time to phone calls and apply some systems and actually go through the content that he was putting on if I wanted to get to his level of short-term rentals. And that's what I did.
Right.
I used it. as I wanted, and I eventually flaked off of it. And I knew that was definitely a possibility, and I got my money's worth, and that's okay. You don't always have to stick with something long term for it to work for you.
Yeah. If it doesn't feed you, you don't have to do it. Like you take the information you've got and you move forward. Mm-hmm. I've done business programs and stuff where I've spent thousands of dollars on stuff too. Have I completed the programs? No. Am I still happy I signed up for it? Yeah.
And you got a hat.
I got a hat. I fucking love hats, man.
Pretty nice hat.
That's a good hat for sure. That's
and a
why
bag.
That's why I
got
don't
a bag
wear,
too.
I don't wear the hat because I don't want to ruin the $1,000 hat. The hat has the perceived value of the course. So,
all right, guys. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening, and thanks for watching if you're watching. Do us a favor. If you like the show, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or on YouTube. Comment on the YouTube. We see you, Ryan Jones. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
And Dave.
And Dave, thanks, Dave. We appreciate you as well. Yep. Yeah. We're stoked to continue doing this and continue providing value for y'all. So hopefully you stick around and keep learning.
Yeah. If you want to join the YouTube comment club with Dave and Ryan, they're pretty lonely. Get in on there, and we might mention you as well.
We are getting in on the ground floor. We're going to build a pyramid scheme out of our YouTube comments. They're on the ground floor right now, so they're what's called the founding members.
Yes.
You want to be a founding member? Start commenting.
Speaking of founding members, before we go, I just want to encourage everybody to listen to the rap video that we just put out on YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah.
Jeremy helped my team create one of those hilarious realtor rap videos of our whole team rapping. It was awesome. You did a great job. Thank you so much.
You all did a great job. The talent was there.
Yeah, but you did it all. I mean, you produced, you made the beats. You told us how to sing it.
Oh, you did
and
make
then
it
you
easy,
shot.
but you guys did a pretty good job. So.
Yeah, all we had to do was plug and play. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yeah, no, that was a fun project. Yeah, definitely check it out. It's on Nick's YouTube. If you're friends with them on Facebook, find it that way. Yeah, check it out.
Maybe I'll just play it in the outro.
Ooh, you can
If I'm editing, I'll throw it in there.
All right.
Thanks.
Sounds good.
All right, bye. Oh, not leave. Stop.
Thank you so much for checking out the Investor Shed podcast. If you enjoyed your time, make sure to leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Follow along on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at The Investor Shed for shorts and promos about each episode. Do you want to be a guest or know someone who has great real estate investing advice and stories? Reach out to us at theinvestorshed@gmail.com.